Hello everyone, my name is Coach Z, certified personal trainer, certified pre-postnatal exercise specialist. Today we are going to be talking about diastasis recti. What is diastasis recti? Can you prevent it? Why it happens? Does it go away on its own? And how do you know if you have it in postpartum? So what is diastasis recti? Diastasis recti is the separation of your outermost abdominal muscles, also known as your rectus abdominis muscles. Essentially what happens is during pregnancy, your belly grows and expands to make room for growing baby. As your belly grows and expands, those outer abdominal muscles separate and those connective tissues get thinner and thinner and elongate to make room for growing baby. So one thing that I want to clear up about diastasis recti is that it is completely normal for it to occur during pregnancy and happens in pretty much every pregnancy. It's not necessarily something that you can prevent in any form or fashion. Now you can do deep core exercise prior to and during your pregnancy as some form of prevention, but it's not foolproof. There's normally some degree of diastasis recti. Now what I can say is that doing these deep core exercises prior to, if you are planning your pregnancy and during your pregnancy, can help in your recovery process, and it may be able to determine if your diastasis recti lingers for longer or if it heals faster. But again, this is not foolproof. There are some factors that contribute to your diastasis recti, how long it stays, the degree of it, and those things can look like age, how many pregnancies that you have had, weight, genetics. So with that being said, there is no foolproof way of preventing diastasis recti, but I want you to have the tools to know if you have it, the degree of your diastasis recti, and then I'm also going to give you some tips on how we're going to work on healing that diastasis recti. So go ahead, come with me. We're going to transition to the floor. All right, beautiful ladies, we are back and we are going to go ahead and do our diastasis recti check. Remember, although diastasis recti cannot necessarily be prevented and it is a normal part of pregnancy, there are things that you can be doing before and during pregnancy to maintain some core integrity. Now, once we get into postpartum, during that initial postpartum healing period, you will find that sometimes those connective tissues and abdominal muscles start coming back together on their own. Now, if you find yourself after the initial postpartum healing period doing this diastasis recti check, which I would recommend, and you realize that you still have diastasis recti after the initial postpartum healing period of 6 to 8 weeks, I would highly recommend that you start some ab rehab. Essentially what ab rehab is a series of deep core movements that are going to create a solid foundation with your innermost core muscles. That way your outer core muscles have a solid foundation to heal on. So enough talking, let's go ahead and get into this diastasis recti check. If you want to be comfortable, I do recommend a mat or towel of some sort. You don't necessarily need one, but I'm gonna go ahead and lie down on my mat. Now, if you suspect that you have diastasis recti, I want you to get down on the floor with a side lying position. What that means is, as you can see, I'm about to come down on my side as such, and then you're going to roll over on your back. What this does, if we do have diastasis recti, that is going to help us avoid putting so much pressure on our core, because say we go like this, when we're coming down and coming up out of line on the ground, that puts a lot of pressure on our core. And if we do have a significantly weak core and we are suffering from diastasis recti, it can aggravate those muscles that are already separated. So to avoid any aggravation, let's go ahead and just be safe and go down in that side lying position here. So I'm gonna come down on my side, and then I'm going to gently start to roll over. All right, ladies, as you can see here, now I am fully lying on the ground, and I want you to kind of just press your back lightly into the ground here. So if you notice when you're lying down, we may have some space here in between our back and the floor, and it's sometimes natural depending on our posture and any shifts that we have developed from pregnancy. So I just want you to do a slight pelvic tilt and think about pressing your back into the floor or your mat. That way we can just be at a neutral position and be as accurate as possible when we're doing this diastasis check. So from here, if you do have a jacket on or some form of thick shirt or material like myself, you're just gonna wanna go ahead and roll it up a little bit. We want to be able to access about an inch above the navel. We want to access at the navel and then an inch below the navel. So when it comes to diastasis recti, you can have it in one of those spots, maybe a combination, or all of those spots. So diastasis recti isn't just something that you can just pick one spot to check. Oh, if there's no separation there, I don't have it. That's not true. We want to make sure that we are being diligent in our check and checking at all of those locations. So let's go ahead and get started. I want you to take 2 fingers as such. Again, I want you to go about an inch and a half above the navel. Make sure that back is pressed into your mat or the floor. And at that midline, I want you to go about an inch and a half above the navel. From here, just kind of place your fingers. You can kind of play around a little bit, see if you feel your rectus abdominis muscles, but make sure you're at that midline, okay? Now from here, back is pressed into the floor. I want you to tuck your chin in, and then I want you to bring the top of your shoulder blades up like you're going into a crunch. Now you're likely gonna start feeling those abdominal muscles contract a bit more because they're obviously working to hold your upper body, your head up. Now I want you to see, can you feel the ridge of each muscle on either side? So see if you can feel that ridge line. And then I want you to see how many fingers fit in between those 2 ridges. So you have a ridge that's going to be on the left side and then on the right side of those outer abdominal muscles. How many fingers can you fit in between those ridges? Now, if it's more than 2 fingers or more, that means that you have diastasis recti above the navel. If you can only fit 1 finger, you do not have diastasis recti. Generally, that is natural human anatomy. There is a natural space in between either side of those rectus abdominis muscles. That's something that a lot of people don't know. We're going to do that same exact technique, but I want you to put those 2 fingers at the navel. So here we are at the navel. This one may be a little bit trickier to feel around with because you do have that navel there as well, but we're gonna make it work. So make sure that back is pressed into your mat. Do that nice pelvic tilt. Chin tucked. Come up into a crunch-like position. How many fingers can you fit in between those ridges on either side? Again, if it's more than 2 fingers, that is considered diastasis recti, or also known as abdominal separation. If you can't fit 2 fingers, you try 1 finger. Okay, I don't have diastasis recti. Now, if there is a solid wall of muscle, again, if you can't fit a finger in there, you don't have diastasis recti. We're gonna go ahead and use that same technique, get 2 fingers, and I want you to go about an inch below the navel. Back pressed down into your mat or floor, chin tucked. Come up into a crunch-like position. Shoulder blades, the top of your shoulder blades are off of the ground. And I'm feeling around for those ridges on either side. And I'm seeing how many fingers can fit in between. Again, if you can fit 2 fingers or more, that's considered diastasis recti. If you can't fit 2 fingers, if you fit 1 finger, or maybe you just feel a nice good wall of muscle, then that is not diastasis recti. You don't have it. So I'm gonna come up out of my check now. We're gonna chat for a little bit. Remember, I want you to roll over on your side. From here, take your hand that's towards the ceiling, and I want you to go ahead and press it into the ground, and then lift yourself up with that hand. All right, so you did your diastasis recti check, you have your results, you have determined that you do have diastasis recti. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video, if you have diastasis recti, surgery is not always required. And actually, for a lot of moms and clients that I work with, we have been able to reduce their diastasis recti or rid of it completely through something called ab rehab. And essentially what ab rehab is literally healing your core from the inside out. So we're gonna start with your innermost core muscles, also known as your transverse abdominis muscles. we're going to strengthen them up first through a series of deep core exercises. You should notice that your muscles on the outside, your rectus abdominis muscles, are going to start getting stronger, and they may even start coming in, and that gap begins to close. As your core heals and we gain integrity, we're going to keep progressing those movements, those deep core movements, so we can continue to challenge your core and it can heal and continue to restore integrity. So I'm here to tell you all, surgery is not always needed, and actually for most cases, you can heal diastasis recti fairly naturally. In some cases, you may need surgery, but in a lot, it's not required. Let me know if this video helped you out. Like and subscribe for more Mama Fit tips.